We have Brian Mansfield from USA Today's Idle Chatter. And
Brian Mansfield is one of the happiest, most talkative people I know. We at Fox 17 have gotten to know him from his visits to the studio as our expert idol panelist.
Because she's been very consistent.
Normally, he writes a blog for USA Today called Idle Chatter, but these days, Mansfield writes about all things colon in his new USA Today blog called My Semicolon Life.
That's what I do. I tell stories, and so the only stories that make sense to tell are the ones that maybe are a little bit difficult to tell or maybe a little bit embarrassing.
Despite having cancer, that humor I was telling you about hasn't gone anywhere. From how his taste of music has changed since being diagnosed with cancer to all details that colon cancer involves.
I haven't been willing to eat Prince's hot chicken yet, but that's what
Mansfield takes his readers on this new and very personal journey.
I want people to get an entertaining story out of it. It keeps me from getting too worried or getting too excited about day-to-day stuff.
His cancer journey started earlier this year. During Idle, Mansfield started feeling sick. He postponed a suggested colonoscopy until after the Idle season. Then in June, he went in for the procedure.
I was just coming out of sedation when I heard the GI tell me that I had cancer.
Instead of being frightened, Mansfield says he was perplexed. At only 48 and no immediate family history, how could this be? Come to find out, Brian is one of only 2 to 3% of colon cancer patients with something called Lynch syndrome.
Lynch syndrome is a genetic disorder that comes with a predisposition toward cancer to the point that somebody with Lynch syndrome has an 80% chance of getting colon cancer by the time they're 70, and it usually shows up in the mid to late 40s in guys.
That diagnosis is why he's now being rolled into an endoscopy procedure room.
So I will remember nothing after right now.
The scope is about the size of my pinky, and so we put it down into the esophagus and stomach and right at the beginning of the duodenum, and we look for anything that shouldn't be there.
Lynch syndrome makes Mansfield at a higher risk for other cancers, such as stomach cancer, which is what they're checking for with this scope.
So I'm kind of looking up at the esophagus and the stomach coming together. Everything looks really healthy, normal. No evidence of any kind of polyps or cancer here in the upper tract.
Good news for Mansfield, but not such good news, he jokes, for his story.
If something really, really bad happens to me medically, it's great for the story. If something really, really good happens to me medically, then my second thought after that's great is I'm not going to have anything to write about.